started off just doing standard data and analytics, which is normalizing the data and adding business logic to it. Then eventually got into using that data in the form of signals, in the form of automations that are built on top of this, and then now AI. So it's been an exciting journey. And the whole world has seen AI as such a large opportunity, and as a result of that, organizations are investing in providing folks like me and my team the tools to deliver things that we could not think of delivering before. I think COVID changed a lot of things in the world, but it also, us as a society, embraced technology because we all had to be home for so long and relied on cameras and computers to communicate with people and get work done. But I think the folks that are said, I'm going to use AI and get better at what I do, I think they won't have a problem surviving at all. As a matter of fact, they will flourish.
You're listening to Data Analytics Chat, where data meets career.
Welcome to Data Analytics Chat, the podcast where we discuss the world of data, AI, and the careers shaping it. Today, I'm excited to welcome Sameer Sethi, Chief AI Officer at Hackensack Meridian Health. In today's episode, we'll explore his exciting career journey and also discuss the topic of choosing the right signal on human intuition or AI insight. Sameer, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Ben, excited to be here, Ben. Really appreciate it.
Brilliant. So obviously you've had an amazing career to date. I guess for the listeners, do you want to just share your career journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I tend to draw a line in my career back towards the end of 2010 or so, 2009, 2010, where I was working in financial services and I got into healthcare. I've been in healthcare since then. I started off doing EMR implementation, which is electronic medical record. This is the system that physicians and nurses use to record healthcare data about patients. And then I very quickly pivoted over to looking at what we were doing with that data that was being generated. And I've been here since. So I've been working for providers. This is my third health system. And then I took a bit of a break working in management consulting, which was really good because it taught me a little bit about healthcare strategy and how to build healthcare strategy versus just doing implementations. But for the last 17, 18 years, I've been focusing on figuring out how best to use data to have organizations take better decisions. These could be patients, could be physicians, could be healthcare operators. I started off just doing standard data and analytics, which is normalizing the data and adding business logic to it. Then eventually got into using that data in the form of signals, in the form of automations that are built on top of this, and then now AI. So it's been an exciting journey.
Amazing. And so I guess what was the pivot? Why did you move into healthcare? So your financial services, it's a good industry. Obviously a lot of investment in that field. So what was the motivation to move?
Yeah, I think that for me, there are two pinpoints. One is I worked in financial services prior to coming to healthcare. And I married a very passionate healthcare worker. My wife is an occupational therapist. And I think she brought in me a bit of energy around being able to, or finding ways and means to do things beyond just a job and finding some meaning in that. So for me, I think working in healthcare is about either improving the quality of care or reducing the cost of care or making it more efficient, should I say. And I think that's been my mission. So I think that was one pinpoint, which is looking at what I do and working hard at it and obviously providing a living to the family, right? I think that was really important. But I think what triggered me was a conversation, I think, with her around why I cannot do anything beyond just work, right? How can I convert that into work and make money, obviously, and build a career, but then also help somebody? My mission is to help people with data and analytics. I think that was one. And the other one, as I mentioned earlier, was I think when I started my career off in healthcare, it was about implementing workflows. And I thought that was fun. I learned quite a bit about really seeing how clinicians, nurses, and physicians were using technology. But then The pivotal point was when I started to peek behind the scene. What I noticed was that you could do a lot with that data that is being generated about a patient, and not enough of that is happening. And that's what prompted me to get into the data and analytic game of AI, of healthcare. So two pivoting points in summary. One is why and how I got into healthcare, and the other is once I got into healthcare, how I shifted over to working on data and analytics.
Amazing. The wife gave you the purpose. She found your purpose. Because I think it's important.
She's one of those people that talks about patients and making people walk and helping stroke patients. And I hear those stories. And I think a portion of me said after a while that I bet I can do something here with what I know.
Yeah. No, I think it's important to have that. Because work is, obviously there's good days, there's bad days, there's medium days. And I think if you've got that purpose in the back of your, or what you want to achieve, it's going to just amplify them tough days, going to make you push to achieve instead of just having a day off or not pushing yourself. So I think, and a lot of people I think are not necessarily lost, but need to understand their purpose. Because I think a lot of people just turn up to work and have not got that motivation behind them.
Yep, I agree. No, that helps every day.
Brilliant. So it's obviously that's, I guess, a good defining moment. Has there been any other big defining moments in your career?
I feel like every time I find a new use case, an opportunity to tech enable somebody, for me, that's a defining moment, right? Healthcare technology is still behind, right? Quite a bit. And I think what excites me the most, and the reason I consider it as a defining moment is because each of those opportunities that, either myself or one of my team members catches and says, hey, technology can help, AI can help, automation can help with this, is I think a defining moment for me. And I'd like to say that we find at least one every 2 weeks or so, right? If not more frequent. So I think for me, I think those defining moments is what keeps me excited and going every day and there's no lacking, right? I think there's enough technology in healthcare, but there could be more. And I think especially now, I think those incidents of finding how technology can help I think the volume has just gotten up because I think technology overall has gotten so much better in the last 2 years. Today we have generative AI, which we didn't have before. So I think that just opens so many doors for us. There's the concept of agentic AI right now that opens so many doors for us, right? To be able to deliver. When I think about the things that my team was able to solve compared to what they can solve today, I think it's amazing the progress that's been made. We can do a lot more. We can do things a lot faster using the help of a lot of organizations that didn't even look at healthcare. So for me, I think it's a combination of the defining moments are a combination of finding new opportunities, which we find every day. And then maybe I think now that I think about it, what's happened in the last 3 years, 2.5 years, right? When the whole world has seen AI as such a large opportunity. And as a result of that, organizations are vesting in providing folks like me and my team the tools to deliver things that we could not think of delivering before.
Okay, brilliant. And you mentioned the sector is far behind, and it is one of it's health. It's associated to everyone. How can we speed up? I know the data is really sensitive. There's a lot of regulatory involvement in this field. How could we speed up? Because then also if we can find more medicines and more impact, that's going to make the world a better place.
Yeah, I think the way we can speed up is honestly, it's about the kind of attention that it has now, right? Which is healthcare. I think let's talk economics first, right? Look at the level of investment that's gone into healthcare in the last 5 years compared to what it was prior to that. It's amazing what's happened. So I think the first thing is for tech enabling healthcare, it requires investment. And that was lacking in the past. We're a nonprofit, we're a health system. The margins in healthcare aren't a whole lot compared to other organizations. And that's why technology is not free, right? So it costs money. So I think bringing in the right kind of funding and the motivation to invest in healthcare technology is, I think, what is happening already now, but it is more required. More of it is required, right? So I think that, in my opinion, at a very large macro level, I think that's what was needed, and we've come a long way, and more needs to be done. So I think that's one piece of this. The other is, I think we are naturally, because we handle people and their data and their very personal data. Healthcare data is very personal in nature. I think what set us back is being able to make sure while we innovate, that we protect the data as well. And that's hard to do both at the same time. And so I think that's been a bit of a setback for at least tech enablement or innovation. And again, I think things have come a long way. We have now ways to tokenize data and de-identify data a lot easily. So I think things have come a long way. But I think those are the reasons why things are behind. It's really investment and then concerns around privacy.
Okay, interesting. So has increase in investment, is that due to the pandemic?
I think so. I think it's because of a lot of different reasons, but pandemic had a play in it. I give this example to a lot of folks. I know I help take care of a elderly relative, and I remember going to her pre-COVID and asking her if she wanted to go do a telehealth visit instead of visiting her doctor, and she would say, "Nope, I want to go see my doctor. I've been seeing the same doctor for so many years, and that's what I want to do." Post-COVID, when I'm asking her if she wants to go to the doctor, she tells me, "Can I do a televisit instead?" So there's something to be said about in that story about the fact that people are comfortable with using technology as an enabler of healthcare. And I think there are ways to go with that. But that story tells you that people are very comfortable with embedding technology as a part of how care is delivered. So I think that has a lot to do with it. So tech companies and organizations have seen that momentum change, that the behavior change, and thus have invested in it because they can make money from it. So I think that has led to I think COVID changed a lot of things in the world, but it also, us as a society, embraced technology because we all had to be home for so long and relied on cameras and computers to communicate with people and get work done. So I think COVID definitely has a lot to do with that. The other is, I think, just in general, I think we are going through a tech revolution, in my opinion, and it has impacted all industries. And I think, what I'm feeling in healthcare, I think finance and other domains are feeling it as well. So I think that has accelerated. I think overall, because processing of data and digital capabilities have improved so much and so quickly, that there are things that, to my point earlier, we can deliver that we were not able to deliver before. A good example is 15 years ago, when I was in this business, we had to rely on a few AI models that were available in the market for purchase, and pretty much everything else we had to develop on ourselves. But today we have models which are readily available, including large language models that didn't exist. Right? There was no concept of large language models back then. So we have so much help from these enablers outside of our immediate organization and our immediate vendor landscape. All that wasn't there. So I think it's a bit of COVID that has changed the way by which we consume technology, but also I think an interest from other organizations because they can deliver easily. A lot of foundationally, as a society, we have become very tech strong.
Yeah, no. It's something fascinating, isn't it? These big life events like COVID, obviously, it's changed for many businesses the working environment. Obviously, you've got a hybrid, remote, and that more as opposed before. And then if you look at the AI boom, that's how many more businesses now are looking at investing in AI and things like that. So these big events that actually, I guess, play like a domino effect, don't they, for people to start, like, we need to change.
Yeah, great.
Cool. So then, obviously going back to your career, obviously you've done amazing, progressed to C-level. Have you faced major setbacks during your career?
Yeah, I think many. There's a saying out there, right? Every setback is a setup for a comeback, right? So setbacks are not a bad thing. I've always seen setbacks as an opportunity to reflect on what I could have done better. And it could be a position that I applied for. It could be a use case that we deployed that wasn't doing well, and the business came in and said, shut it down because it's not really doing anything for me and it's just a distraction. So I think lots and lots of setbacks, but I think each of those setbacks was a setup for a solid comeback because, at least the way I see this is you learn from that and you come back stronger. You build a capability that is better than it was. You learn from the mistakes. I guess maybe I sound different or weird saying this, but I'm completely comfortable with setbacks. It's a good thing. That's the only way we learn. That's the only way you really look back and think about what you could have done better.
No, I think it's interesting. So, did you get taught that? Because obviously it's a mindset, isn't it, basically? Because I completely agree. Like, any challenge in life is going to give you an opportunity, basically. Whether you have a layoff, like, there's always, you have that period of time where it's not nice as a feeling, but when you look back, if you look back just a challenge you had 10 years ago, you think that was nothing. But at that point in life, it's like painful.
Yeah. And to your question about whether I was taught it, I'm sure I was, right? I'm a big believer of mentorship. I have folks that mentor me constantly, and I've gone through so many of them through the course of my career. I think that's helped realize these things. These people are really smart and accomplished, and they share, when you have intimate conversations with them about their careers and their journey as such we're having here, they're very open to share what they did well and what they didn't. So I think those things have taught me, I think it was experiences or learning from other people have taught me things like this, which is, I think, that setback is not a bad thing.
So you must have strong sort of self-awareness skills.
I think so. I would like to think so. Depends on who you ask. But I try very hard to always reflect on what has happened and why it's happened, and be honest with, at least with everyone, but also with myself first, right? It is really important to be, as a part of your career or being a person, I think you have to be honest with yourself. The day you stop being honest with yourself is when you're doing yourself some injustice, right? And it's very easy to be honest with oneself, right? And that's what I try very hard to do. Reflect on what's happened, figure out what you can do better, right? Realize what the other person's perspective. I mean, I do this at work, not just in a personal level, right? It's when I am trying to deliver technology, I have to, it's very hard, but I have to try to see this in the view of a clinician whose life is different, right? I'm in front of a computer, whereas these folks are in front of patients, right? So I think realizing that, how it's not just about tech, but it's about human factor engineering, and that those concepts have to be brought into delivering tech. I think that's all a part of realizations and sometimes setbacks.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think obviously you mentioned like reviewing yourself, because everyone wants to improve, and there's always a better way to do things. It's been, again, I think it is like you having a blessing, being really self-aware of where you're at and not lying to yourself, just being actually truthful where you're at. All right. So what has given you a genuine edge?
I think what has helped me is the fact that I am open to other people's thoughts on a subject. I think that has benefited me a lot. I spend a considerable amount of time at work and even outside of work getting people's perspective on things, whether it be technology or otherwise. So I think I'm blessed with having a network where I can share ideas, bounce ideas, and that gives me the edge over others. I think, a lot of people that I see tend to, sit in an ivory tower that they built and feel comfortable being there. I'm one of those people that like to be uncomfortable at times and step out of my comfort zone and do different things and talk to different people and get their opinions and their feedback. And I think that starts to give you an edge. I think that's really important. So I think that's one thing that's attributed to, some of my success. The other thing is that I think understanding technology and the domain that you live in is an edge, right? I see a lot of people know technology really well and others that don't know technology well and understand the domain really well. But I take a lot of pride in saying that I would like to be at that intersection of process, which is healthcare, and technology, right? And sitting in the middle takes a lot of work, takes a lot of diligence, takes a lot of exercise. But sitting there and understanding both sides of this helps you deliver impact. And I've considered that to be edge. I do believe that I sit in the intersection of technology and healthcare, and that gives me an edge above people that don't have that position.
Yeah. And if you touched on a key thing, now tech, a lot of the tools now can do the heavy lifting, and data does feel like it is getting more domain focused. And you mentioned being at the intersect between tech and the domain. Obviously, as you progress to C-level, or like even leadership, how did you find that challenge? Because a lot of people have that move from a technical expert into leadership is a big challenge, a big step for people. How did you overcome that? Obviously, you mentioned you had mentors, but is there any more advice for the listeners? How you overcome them challenges?
Yeah, I think number one I'll say is, and this advice is pointed towards technologists in general, right? That is that I think you need to step away from your computer and walk the hallways, right? So I spent quite a bit of time walking the hallways of hospitals. This is where you meet the nurses and you meet the physicians, and you get a sense of what their life looks like. Because I think I'm very comfortable in the technology space and I can be in front of the computer and get myself up to speed on what's happening there. But I think stepping out of so I make it a point programmatically to do in healthcare what's called rounding. Rounding is a process where you go unit by unit. So you select a unit, you go in, you talk to them, look at how they're using the tools that have been delivered to them, and then get feedback why this has not working. And you'll see all the time this dashboard was built, but no one's looking at it. And you figure out why, and then you come and improve on that. So I think getting outside of in front of your computer and experiencing the life of the people that you build these things for is I think really important. The other is networking. I think it is important as well. I've been blessed with being able to expand my network, and I think I have to commend the leaders of Hackensack. They allow me to do this. Bob Garrett, who's our CEO, is very aggressive on making sure that we go to these networking events and shows and experience and learn from others. That has helped me quite a bit. So I think the advice that I have for people there is that speak to your leadership, tell them what you're looking to do, and give them examples of how you can just go beyond your organization and experience what others are doing. Network, go to people's place of business where you can actually see things in action, talk to people. I think networking helps quite a bit. So I think these are two things I would say. One is experience the actual business that you work for, get a sense of how they're feeling about technology. That will give you an edge. And the other is network. There are very smart people out, not just in the organization, but also outside the organization that are doing great things. And the only way you'll find out is either if you go to them and knock on their doors and talk to them and, again, share even what you're doing. I think that those are two really powerful things.
Yeah, not that. And because I think also educates you on their problems as opposed to not just seeing from your point of view.
Yeah, I even go as far as at least once a year to go to a conference that is not healthcare. So I was at a conference recently, which was very general across all domains, and it was an AI conference, and it was very powerful, right? That's where you got to meet people who are doing amazing things. Not all of them would apply to healthcare, but just, so I think what I'm trying to say is that step outside of just even healthcare networking events and focus on non-healthcare working events as well, and you'll learn a lot.
Okay, cool. So we'll move on to the data topic. And so we're looking at like choosing the right human against AI. I guess before we start, I think it's important.
Signals it's amazing if you look at the journey of data, right? Data comes in from multiple sources, right? And then we, data geeks, normalize that data and make that data usable. And then we add business logic on top of that data. And then signals come out of that data. The reason that is important is because signals is what matter, right? Otherwise, data is not as useful as, on its own, data is actually not useful at all, right? You have to build insights, which is what a signal is, from that data. And the way you do that is by normalizing that data, making it usable, and then adding business logic, which starts to tell you it's a good signal or a bad signal. And without that, it's just numbers the way I explain it very simply is you could get a Excel document and just put numbers on it. And I think interpreting those numbers is difficult. But when you start to add business logic, one thing, something multiplied by that equal to this, and then you add a color formatting to which is red, green, or yellow. And if it's a certain number, to a certain threshold, it turns into red. Otherwise, it's yellow and then it's green. Those are the signals. It's what makes this data most meaningful. So I think signals are the most important thing when it comes down to data. Without that, it's just numbers.
Yeah. And if we, a lot more work is going down the AI route, is this, how are you going to deal with educating the team? AI is taking the jobs. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, that's an interesting conversation. I'll tell you how. I'll start by saying this, right? I was just talking about Excel, right? I remember having this conversation when Excel came out, right? And people were saying, oh my God, Excel is here and there'll be no more accountants as a result of this. And last I checked, there are more accountants than ever before, right? They're doing different things. They're not doing manual calculations, but they're focusing on some other things that we were completely overlooked. So I think as far as the jobs are concerned, I think there'll be some reconfiguration of roles for sure. But I am not worried about AI causing job losses per se. There'll be news about this and things will be twisted and turned, in my opinion. But I do believe that AI is going to redefine how we work and what kind of work that we do. Today, for the next 5 years, I believe AI is going to help organizations work at the top of their licenses. And that's what I am interested in. The AI that we are building at Hackensack and using is allowing clinicians to work at the top of their licenses. It is not being built or deployed to get rid of clinicians. That's not what we're doing. We're making sure that we can provide better care with AI.
Yeah, no, I agree. Obviously, there's going to be these changes, but like you said, Excel, yeah, it has helped accountants, but there's still work. People still want to deal with humans, etc. And things will change. Evolution. Yeah, obviously it's fascinating when you hear all these like AI is taking all the jobs, all the news, etc.
Yeah, it's good. It's going to definitely reconfigure how we work and what kind of work we do, but that's okay. I spoke about having mentors, right? And I still remember there was a mentor that once told me that in technology, the job that you have today did not exist 5 years ago, and the job that you have today will not exist 5 years from now, right? Now, the theme of that advice is that we need to continue evolving, right? And I think that's what AI is going to do. AI is going to force us to evolve as workers. There are things that we no longer will be required to do, and then we will move on to doing other things, right? And that's what happened with the accountants in Excel, right? Which is that the definition of what an accountant did changed. So I think in concept, the definition of what we do is going to change as well as a result of AI. So no reason to be scared of it. I think the folks that are saying that they will not adopt AI at all and they don't think it's there to help them, they have to worry about things. But I think the folks that are said, I'm going to use AI and get better at what I do, I think they won't have a problem surviving at all. As a matter of fact, they will flourish.
Yeah. Okay, so where should companies draw the line between relying on human intuition versus AI-driven signals then?
Yeah, we think and talk about that a lot at Hackensack Meridian Health. I'm sure all health systems are doing that as well. And there is a line, right? Today, when we think about AI enablement, it is about decision support. It is not about decision. So where we draw the line is where we need a human to take care of a patient. And that human is armed with decision support using AI. So I think that's where we draw the line, right? Which is AI will not take a decision for a human, but instead a human will take a decision for a human. But the ability for that human to take better decisions gets better. And that's when the line isn't there. And then the way a human functions is different as well. And what I mean by that is that we are using AI to remove things that are mundane or doesn't require a whole lot of thought, right? So the physician to patient interaction is something that is not managed by, AI, but things like documentation and summarization, things that AI does really well, we're letting AI do. So that's how we have thought about drawing that line of what AI should do and AI shouldn't do. At Hackensack, it's a very much a decision support tool and not a decision tool.
It's interesting. So has that been a work in progress type of workflow for you?
Yeah, absolutely. As a part of our AI build and deployment, human factor engineering is a very strong concept, which is not only do we build a technology, but we look at the complete process that has, as you can imagine, a patient and it has a nurse and a physician and other people that are involved, right? And we look at the complete process and then we make a decision. Okay, this is something that can be managed by an agent or an AI and a robot or robotics process automation. And then these are the things that have to remain. So what we do as a result of this design process is we redesign the whole thing, which is we look at this as whole, right? To say and figure out where technology fits and doesn't fit. So that's something that was missing, I believe, in the tech landscape in general, right? We technologists believed in building technology without worrying as much about how it fits and how it gets used. I still remember back in the day when predictive health came into play, the celebration for success was accuracy, which is, it was a bunch of data scientists that looked at the prediction and the percentage of how accurate it was, and that was the celebration, which was really good, and it's very much the case. But today we look at it differently. Today we look at it and say accuracy is important, but adoption is really important. And the way adoption happens is by looking at a complete process and making sure that signal that you mentioned, Ben, is delivered at the right time to the right person at the right place.
So do you think that's why our firms struggle with AI adoption?
I think so, yes, because they haven't done human factor engineering. That's where a lot of AI is failing, in my opinion. I'll give you an example of this, which I think would hit home here, even for somebody that may not understand healthcare in the audience. So ChatGPT and the likes of ChatGPT came out, right? Which is a really powerful technology. And this society gave it to the masses. And what it gave was an empty box that you could type a question into, right? And you could type this question in and it would give you a response. But what we didn't do is that we didn't teach the users of this how to put together a prompt, right? So we didn't explain to the masses basic concepts of prompt engineering. As a result of that, people don't know how to ask the question. And so as a result of a lot of things happen, hallucinations and people not getting the right answer and they're being disappointed with the response of it. The point I'm trying to make is that this technology was put out there without putting a whole lot of thought into how it will be used, or should I say how it should be used. That's at a very big, and I think that's gone better. People are now understanding prompt engineering. We have AI to help with prompt engineering, and all that is now waking up and eventually getting there. But my point with that example is that there are various examples of technology that has been put out there without factoring in how it will be used. And that is really important. Without that, people will use this technology the wrong way because they just don't know it. No one's told them how to do it. So it's, in simple terms, it's about buying appliances or a gadget and not reading the user manual. And when you don't use it, then you're not using the right features and you're not reaping the benefits of it.
Yeah, no, great. Thanks. Similar to like training for a marathon. If I don't follow a training plan, it's going to be hit or miss that I'm going to get the time I want. But if you follow a plan, you're more likely got the proof that you can achieve what is needed. So what makes data signal trustworthy enough to act upon then?
So I think testing. Again, depends on what kind of capability we're deploying. But I think UAT is very important, right? User acceptance testing. It's one thing to see things progress in paper. It's another thing to actually see it in action, right? So I think building a signal is very important. Building the right signal is really important. But how that interacts in the real world and in volume and at scale, how that works is a different ballgame altogether. So I think for me, a good signal is a signal that is accurate at most of the time, is something that scales really well and is built within the right workflow. That's what is a good signal. And if you're lacking in either of these things, it's not a good signal. or it's not a good enough signal, in my opinion. It has to be human factored, it has to be accurate, and it has to be something that people are able to pay attention to and find significant. A lot of this comes with training and a bunch of other things as well, which change management and other things that have to be done. But without that, it's not a good signal. And to my point earlier, an accurate signal is not a good enough signal, right? A good signal is something that works for somebody. Accurate, but it's also delivered at the right time, right? To the right person, for the right purpose.
I suppose it's going to be even more important for like new tools like agentic AI, because it's moving away from the actual human element. It's more on the tech. So I guess that's going to be quite key for businesses to get as close or get.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited about it, by the way. I'm glad you're asking this question, Ben, because when people ask me, why am I excited about agentic AI? Here's my spiel, right? My spiel is, for years, I have delivered signals only to humans, right? But now I get to deliver some signals to non-humans, which are agents. Now, also speaking about that line, right? That line has to be maintained, and not all signals should be actioned by an agent. But that's what excites me the most, is when an agent is put in place or will be put in place, it's usually done with almost like a forced thought of process engineering in mind, right? Because it's actually changing. You're actually saying a human doesn't need to do this step. Instead, it's going to be a machine or code that's going to do it. And then a human comes in. So I think what I'm excited about is that it's going to force the mechanisms of thinking about deploying technology, but with a process focus. Without that, you just can't do agentic AI, right? You just can't just throw an agent at anything and it's going to work. You have to think about the whole process. So I am really excited about this because it's a forcing mechanism to think about process before deploying technology.
And also it's going to remove their mundane tasks for people. There's certain bits of your job that, so you want to be good at your job, but there's certain bits that just is not interesting to people. So if you can get some technology to do the bits that sort of don't need to do in your job, your day is going to be so much more focused on the interesting, exciting parts.
Yeah, absolutely. And note also that we were doing a lot of that already with robotics process automation, right? So this is another way of describing agentic AI is RPA on steroids, right? Which is, it's actually, now we have robotics process automation that can think and generate, right? So it's a robotics process automation that is fueled by a rule-based engine, and it is fueled by a large language model that can generate, things and statements. So it's beyond just, I believe, even mundane tasks. It definitely takes over the mundane tasks, but we were doing that already, right? Using RPA, or we should have been doing that using RPA. At Hackensack, we've been doing it for 3 years. We almost have 300 use cases in production that are RPA enabled. But now this new capability is a smarter RPA. It's an RPA that can access various capabilities that I described, which is a large language model or a rule-based engine or some other capabilities. And we're really excited about it.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating times ahead. The importance of that. How can organizations design systems that blend the human oversight with agentic AI decision making?
Yeah, I think you have to invest in just not technology, right? You have to invest in having people that understand technology and also understand process. If you look at my team today, we have technologists that understand what an agent is from a perspective of tech, but then we have concepts of a human factor engineering as well, right? Which is really looking at the process and saying, okay, how will this be embedded into it? And all that has to come together. So I think the way organizations can benefit from this is having folks that, obviously that sit at that intersection of technology and process. And if you don't have that, then make sure those people are talking, right? So don't build tech on your own. Make sure you have the business involved. Make sure that it is their problem to solve and not a technologist's problem to solve. So create the right level of accountability and ownership, and make sure that the solution that is built for them and not for you. And I'm speaking from experience. I'm speaking from a technologist mindset. I've seen too many not so great examples of situations where an interpretation is made without the business around what problem needs to be solved and how it needs to be solved. Involving the business in solving a problem is what is required to deliver the best outcomes. And I think that can be done by hiring the right people that, again, sit in the at that intersection, or making sure the business is really involved and invested in solving that problem for you.
And I guess there it's going to be important to hire people that understand the business problems, so have that domain knowledge.
Yeah, I was in a very similar conversation a few months ago, and coming off stage, what I realized was that it's amazing how much thought I have to now put into just not technology, but into human psychology, right? Into really thinking about how will this be adopted. So I think the role of tech has gone beyond code. I think the role of tech is actually gone into how much it will be used. And that's because so much of it's here, right? It's no longer a dashboard that we put out there, right? It's about signals, and the signals are getting fired in different ways, right? So the role of technology leaders is not just thinking about technology. The role of technology leader now is actually thinking about process.
Okay. And it's like, this is like do a thorough job. And there's always going to be, in my opinion, people that want to try and cut corners. What are going to be the big risks for, say, when businesses like blindly trust AI signals without human interpretation?
Yeah, it's
because I think in my opinion, is people going to try and catch up, get a competitive advantage? So it's good to get your thoughts on this.
Yeah, it's a major risk and it's a major problem for us, right? We actually have a whole process by which we govern AI, and the way we do this is we look at every AI capability that we either build or buy through a lens of a total of 13 domains, right? And the reason we do this is because the stuff is coming at us really fast, right? And I think there are motivations beyond just patient care that are involved, right? Because AI costs money, right? It is our job to make sure that no one is harmed, right? Whether it be the user of AI or a consumer of AI. We at Hackensack, and I'm sure other organizations do this as well, look at AI from various different angles to make sure that it is safe. So we test it technically, but we also test it non-technically. And by what I mean by that is we have folks in our ethics team looking at this AI capability. We have people in legal and risk, right? And compliance, in clinical documentation, all of these looking at the AI. So we have a total of 13 domains that evaluate every AI that is either built or purchased. And then we help the organization take a right decision around whether to use that AI and not use it. The reason we put such a large investment into this is because there are organizations that are releasing AI that is not 100% mature, right? I wouldn't call it bad, but it is not 100% mature, not ready for prime time. And it is our responsibility as consumers to make sure we test it to the best of our ability to ensure that it will not do any harm.
Yeah, and especially in your field, healthcare is such an important industry, isn't it, that you can't cut corners.
Yeah, we can. And look, I want to also say that I think that responsibility exists even not in healthcare as well, right? We have seen too many not so great stories about how AI was deployed and it hallucinated and gave the wrong advice, right? So I'm just stepping outside of healthcare and asking people to really consider AI safety, AI responsibility before it is deployed. This is a very powerful technology, and it needs to be monitored. It needs to be regulated, right, in different ways. And that's the way to deploy responsible AI. Without this, people will get hurt and harmed.
Yeah. Looking ahead, how will agentic AI change the way organizations act on data and insights?
Yeah, so I think that answer should always start by saying that AI is not magic, right? Agentic is not magic. It is all backed by data. So the way I think the organizations are reacting to it, should react more to, is making sure that they invest in the foundation. And the foundational, there are lots of other things when it comes down to foundationally being ready for AI, but it has to start with data. So investments need to continue going into making sure that we have good data that the AI can rely on, right? So I think that is number one, right? Which is the conversation of data and analytics in general that cannot go away because AI has nothing else to function. It's AI's fuel is data and data only. So I think that's one. The other is education. I think educating people of what AI is and AI isn't is an interesting topic in my mind. And again, that has to attribute to, I think, things coming too fast, right? I think AI has come too fast at us and we haven't kept up with educating organizations on what AI is. My recommendation for organizations, if they want to adopt AI, is keep that dialogue on, create committees, obviously that scale and do things the right way. But having conversations with your leaders of what AI is and what isn't, and that changes and it's changing over very quickly. But I think that dialogue has to remain open and very active. We at Hackensack Meridian Health, our AI and automation governance committee meets once a month. We have a working group that meets every 2 weeks. So such level of cadence is required if organizations want to go and rely on AI as an enabler of their success. And I don't think there's any ways around it. If you're not using AI, if you're not using automation, you will not be successful. You will not be able to survive.
Yeah. Brilliant. It's been a pleasure having you on and provide some great advice. It's obviously a fascinating time in the field. And like I said, we do need to make sure work is done properly because obviously you can't trust the technology, you need human insight as well. So I wish you all the best with your work and thanks for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. Thanks for the opportunity. This was great.
You've been listening to Data Analytics Chat Podcast. Subscribe to our channel for more stories and insights in data and career.